Hi there, welcome to Jujube DIY. I'm Sarah. Thanks for joining me today. I'm taking part in the Duping for the Holidays playlist. We'll be making Kirkland's dupes, and I'm going to tell you how you can win a gift card later on this video. But for now, let's get started with the project. For this first DIY, I cut down 5-gallon stir sticks to 4.5 inches. I painted 2 of them in the moss color from Waverly, 2 in crimson from Waverly, and 2 in the buttermilk from Deco Art. Then I'm going to take a ruler, I'm going to find the center of the stir stick, go down about 1/4 inch and mark that spot. Then I'm going to take my little hand drill. I love having this little hand drill on hand. It makes it really easy when you have a small project and you don't want to get out the big drill. But I'm going to just drill a little hole into this piece where I marked it. And then I'll use this as a template for the rest of my ornament pieces. Give that a little sand to make sure that there's no sharp edges, and you're good to go. I went to my Cricut and I cut out the 6 words that I want on my ornaments. I'm going to take my transfer tape off of the backing and place it down on the front of the vinyl. And I know this looks like a funny thing, but you'll see what I'm going to do here in a minute. I'm going to do a reverse weed on this. So I'm going to take that backing off, leaving everything on the transfer tape. And then I'm going to just weed out the letters, and that will create a stencil basically. And I'm using the Oracle 631, which is a removable vinyl. Now, if you don't have a Cricut, I will have a free printable for you in my description box down below. And you can print these words off and then transfer them onto your ornaments using graphite paper if you would like. And then you can just paint in those letters with a paintbrush. So now I'm going to take my time and line up my word where I want it. Once I get it down, I am going to burnish the front of this with a scraper, and then I'm going to gently peel back the transfer tape, leaving all of the word, you know, like all the extra vinyl that's left over on my ornament. I know that I could probably say that a lot easier some other way, but I think you see what I'm doing here. Taking the buttermilk color, I almost said flavor, buttermilk color from Deco Art and a makeup sponge, I'm going to dab that paint onto my stencil. And this is going to transfer our word in our light, off-white color. And I'm just using a dabbing motion, and I'm going to keep this kind of light. I want this to look a little more worn and rustic, even more so than the ornaments on Kirkland's, but I really like how the kind of red is showing through a little bit. And then once I get that where I want it as far as the opaqueness, I'm going to just take off that extra vinyl. And I did not wait for this to dry. I took it off while the words were still wet. And then I'm going to use that scraper tool, and I'm just going to kind of scrape at some of that paint a little bit, just because, like I said, I want it to look rustic. Here is a closer look at that ornament, and as you can see, it looks pretty rustic. So once that paint dries, I'm going to take this sanding block to it ever so lightly, and then we'll just add a little bit of twine to our hole here to create a hanger. And I'm just going to pull those ends up together and tie it in a knot. And here is a look at all 6 ornaments finished. If you want to take a screenshot of this so that you can get the colors right, feel free. And here is a side-by-side comparison of the price versus theirs and mine. For our second DIY, we're going to start off with an arrow. This came from the Dollar Tree, but if you can't find a Dollar Tree arrow, definitely check out 24 Hour Crafts. They sell all kinds of wood products and they have arrows. I also grabbed one of these wood rounds from the Dollar Tree in the Crafter Square section. It had a hole and a hanger in it. I took the hanger out, filled the hole with spackle, and then spackled up the sides as well. Because this is kind of like a pressed board, you can't really sand that side down super smooth. But if you use a little bit of spackle and just smooth it out and then sand the excess spackle off, you can get a pretty nice edge to these little wood rounds, as you can see here. So I'm going to paint everything in the Waverly chalk paint in crimson. And I showed you that wood dowel, but I forgot to mention it. It is a 12-inch wood dowel. You could also use a plunger, like the handle of a plunger from the Dollar Tree if you wanted to, instead of a wood dowel. But I chose to use a wood dowel because I didn't have a plunger handle on hand. Once again, I went to my Cricut and I cut out my stencil. If you have Cricut Design Space, I will link my Design Space down below where you can actually go to the platform and create these stencils yourself on your Design Space. But if you don't have Cricut Design Space or you don't have a Cricut, you can go to the other link that'll be down below for the free printables, and then you can transfer these decals onto your projects using transfer methods like graphite paper. And if you've been to my channel before, you've seen me use that method multiple times on different projects. I always like to create alternatives for everyone so that those of you that don't have a Cricut or don't want to get a Cricut can also make these projects. Now, once you get everything lined up, take your time here to take that transfer tape off because this is removable vinyl. It tends to not be as sticky, and those little inside areas that you definitely want to make sure are stuck down on your board will sometimes come up. So just take your time. This is definitely sped up, but you want to make sure everything gets stuck down. Once again, I'm going to use my favorite method of stenciling, which is a makeup sponge and paint, dabbing it on in light layers until it is as opaque as I want it. Now, I chose to go with white instead of the cream like Kirkland's because my kitchen is done in a lot of red and white, gingerbread theme, and so I want to be able to put this into my kitchen. So I chose to go with white, but you could definitely use whatever color you want for your words. And I'm just taking that excess vinyl off. Didn't necessarily wait for it to dry, but you want to make sure that all that extra vinyl is off, and it is a super satisfying time to take all of this off. I just love this process. Now, if your paint seeps up underneath your stencil a little bit, just take a small paintbrush and your original color and just go in and fix up any little boo-boos that you see, and it will be perfect. Using my favorite Posca paint pens, which I will link down below for you, I am going to just do a line around my whole arrow. Now, I am not freehanding this. I did go through first with a pencil and mark it with my ruler, which you saw before. It is a graph ruler, so I can go in and mark it easily. I love that graph ruler, and I picked that one up at Michael's. So if you're ever looking for a graph ruler, they come in super handy when you are crafting for sure. I just love how that turned out. So now I'm going to add my dowel rod to my arrow. As you can see, I'm kind of laying my dowel rod down so that I can make sure I get as much glue onto it as possible. I'm going to use that wood glue and hot glue method so that we've got a quick hold and a permanent hold. And that's just going to make sure everything is more secure, especially since this dowel rod is a little bit smaller. Now you're going to put it down on your arrow, and you can definitely measure that out. I did not. And then we will place our dowel rod onto our base, and voila, you have your finished product. here is a look at theirs versus mine. This is week 2 of duping through the holidays. I am joining Brandy at the DIY Struggle and Amber with DIY Amber. We're all three making Kirkland's dupes this week. Each week you're going to be given a chance to win a $60 Amazon gift card, and it's super simple to win. All you got to do is watch Brandy's video and Amber's video, my video, and answer all 3 of our secret questions. And since you have all month to catch up on all the videos, if you missed last week's videos, definitely go back and check them out. Answer their secret questions so you can get entered in for last week's $60 gift card as well. And as you can see, amazing creators coming up. So my secret question is, what is your favorite holiday drink? Leave it down in the comments below. For our last DIY, I picked up a J and a Y from Michael's, sanded them down a little bit, and gave them a couple of coats of the Waverly chalk paint in ink. I also am going to use one of these Dollar Tree wood signs. Those are the long wood ones. And I'm going to paint that in the Waverly chalk paint in ink as well to get rid of the words and to make it look nice and clean. This thing has been hanging out in my house for a while, and it definitely needed a nice refresh here. Now I'm going to use some of this wire from the Dollar Tree. It is a very soft wire. I have no idea what the gauge is, probably like an 18 or 20 gauge wire, but I'm going to pull it out, and I'm trying to keep the long side as straight as possible. Now that's kind of hard when it's coiled up, but just do your best to straighten it out as much as possible. And as you can see, as I pulled it out, I was kind of straightening it as I pulled it, and that helped a lot. Now we're going to mold the top of our hook here, and I'm going to use a paint bottle to do this. Just look around your craft room and see what you can find to kind of wrap your wire around. You kind of want a bigger loop and then a smaller loop, and you'll see what I'm talking about here in just a minute as I work through this process. So I just had a bigger bottle and a smaller bottle. As you can see, now I've kind of got that up and then down kind of loop, and then I'm going to put that paint back in there because it wasn't shaped quite how I wanted it. So I'm going to pull it so that it wraps closer around that paint bottle, if that makes any sense. So you can see it's just more of a hook up there at the top. And then I will do the same with that smaller bottle, just pulling it up and around a little bit more so that it's just more, I don't know, wavy maybe, and closer together. And then I'll just use some wire nippers to kind of cut off that end. And then using a small wood bead, I am just going to hot glue it to the end of our hook here. And that's just going to be a nice protector for that sharp end. And then I'll just give it a coat of the Waverly chalk paint and ink. I definitely suggest, if you are in an area where you can spray paint, to spray paint this part of it black. But I am in an area where it is already cold and wet, and spray paint just is not an option right now. So I went with the chalk paint, but I know it's probably going to wear off a little bit faster than spray paint would. So for our bell, I am going to use this white bell from the Dollar Tree. I picked this up a while back, but I'm pretty sure that they still have these same kind of bells. But I have noticed that most craft stores are carrying these giant bells if you can't find it at the Dollar Tree. So now I kind of placed everything down to figure out where I wanted everything to go. And this is really important that you put the bell on your hook and then add your J and your Y so that you can kind of figure out where everything needs to go. There isn't really a good way, I don't think, to kind of figure this out. But once you do, mark where you want your metal stake to go. And then I just used a hand drill, put a little bit on there that is about the same size as the wire, and drilled about 1/4 of an inch down. And then I'll just put that wire right into the board. And it was a perfect fit. I didn't even glue it in there because it fit so snugly. But if you need to, you can use a little super glue or hot glue to attach that. And then you can see, you can just put your little bell on there, straighten it up if you need to. And then you're just going to hot glue your J and your Y. So I just wanted to make sure everything was lined up, and I used a little bit of wood glue and hot glue to attach that J and Y to my base. Now here I'm going to refresh my little bell. I'm using a couple little sprigs of greenery that actually did come from the Dollar Tree. I just cut them off, and then I'm going to use 3 of these little berries that also come from the Dollar Tree. I am going to just hot glue them on in a little kind of stack. Now I was feeling that it was looking a little plain, so I decided to break out some buffalo check ribbon in black and white, and I am going to wrap a little piece around each of the letters there. And I'm just going to hot glue it onto the letters there in the back. And then I will add a cute little bow to the fronts of each of those letters. And I thought that just kind of dressed it up a little bit, made it look a little more finished in my opinion, and a little less plain. But if you like the more minimal look, definitely you can leave this part out. I happen to be kind of more on the maximalism side, and I like stuff on things. So I chose to add a couple extra little decorations, and I love how it turned out. So here's theirs and mine, and we'll take a little look through all 3 of our projects. I love how each of these turned out, but you're gonna have to let me know in the comments down below which was your favorite. I think mine was the milk and cookie sign. I will have the playlist link in my description box below. That'll have Brandy's video and Amber's video in it. Be sure to answer their secret questions, and don't forget to answer my secret question, which is, what is your favorite holiday drink, so that you can be entered in to win that $60 gift card. You have to answer each person's secret question in order to be entered, so make sure you do that. Till next time, bye!